Hello, here we are today looking at Actinia deliciosa, and this is a hardy kiwi here. It's a subtropical fruit, and the fruit is really delicious. It is green inside and has a fuzzy outside. So today I'm going to show you how to prune the kiwi. So let's have a look at the kiwi here. So here's a little bit of anatomy here. So uh, this part is called a cordon. Cordons are the stalks that support the fruiting wood. So it's pretty similar to grapes. So you leave the cordons growing, and then off of that you get your shoots. Your canes. Actually, like here's some canes here, and that's what the fruiting wood is gonna be. Okay, so here's the fruiting wood from last year. So you want to cut this off about 4 inches there. So I removed just about 4 inches of that wood there. And then you want to leave a renewal shoot for next year. So we'll cut this one off 2 buds. And here's another one. Cut that off. This is a old one, so we'll cut that one off. And then we'll cut this one at 4. And this is the continuing cordon, so we're going to leave that one there, and we'll cut off the back one here at about 4 there too. So it's a lot like grapes. Alright, so I'm going to start pruning here. So they grow about to 10 feet high. Well, they grow higher than 10 feet, but you usually want to keep them about 10 feet. Kiwi vines must be pruned and trained carefully. Without pruning, the vines quickly become a fruitless jungle. There are basically 2 training methods. The first lateral method and the spur method. The one you choose will depend on how much room you have and how many plants you may want to grow. In the fruit lateral method preferred by most commercial growers, the vines are trained on a wire trellis supported 6 feet above the ground by posts topped with T-shaped arms. The fruiting canes develop from permanent arms called cordons and are trained along the trellis wires. The spur method is preferable where space is limited. In this case, the short fruiting spurs originate from the main trunk or permanent cordons. The canes that grow from these spurs each season are tied to a fence, wall, or trellis. Both training techniques require strong support. If you build a trellis, construct it with strong materials that will last a long time. Kiwi fruit can remain productive for more than 40 years. Any wood that will be in direct contact with the soil should be pressure treated with wood preservatives. Regardless of the training method you choose, let the young plants grow with minimal pruning for a year or 2 after planting. If a strong main trunk, more than 1/4 inch in diameter, doesn't develop the first year, cut the vine back to 2 to 3 buds above the ground or graft union the following dormant season. In the spring, train the most vigorous shoots up the trellis. During the training period, the plant's energy should be directed into developing a strong trunk and arms or spurs. Prune the female vines during the dormant season. You will also need to prune them occasionally in summer to remove vigorous shoots that are getting in the way or straying out of bounds. Remove about half of the growth on male vines after they have finished blooming. There are some pests and diseases that affect kiwis, such as root knot nematodes, and they may limit yields, but kiwi vines are so vigorous and productive that the problem may never be noticed. Oat root fungus infects kiwis in some California soils. Other soil-borne pathogens threaten only plants in poorly drained soils. Various insects, including leaf roller, caterpillars, scale, can be troublesome. The aroma of the foliage and bark of the kiwi vine affects cats like catnip does. They may uproot young plants or scratch the trunks of older vines. Kiwi fruits are becoming more popular every year. Although the first large commercial kiwi farms in the United States were planted in the 1970s, this odd-looking egg-shaped fruit with shimmering emerald green flesh and delicious berry flavor has found a permanent home on American tables. The kiwi vine is also working its way into many American gardens. The vines are adapted to a variety of climates, and some of them are extremely hardy and extend kiwi culture into the coldest northern regions. In addition to bearing delicious fruit, the vines also have a very attractive foliage and flowers in an interesting twining habit. Kiwi fruits are borne on fast-growing deciduous vines that need heavy annual pruning to keep them productive and within bounds. It is not unusual for a healthy vine to cover an area 10 to 15 feet wide, 18 to 24 feet long, and 9 to 12 feet high. The dark green leaves are round, 5 to 8 inches wide, and have a fuzzy white underside. The new growth is velvety brown. The yellowish white flowers are about an inch in diameter and borne in the leaf axis of the new shoots. The round to oblong fruit have a fuzzy brown, almost leathery skin enclosing soft, bright green flesh dotted with tiny, edible black seeds. In the commercial orchard, kiwi vines are usually trained on wire trellises elevated 6 to 7 feet off the ground. In the garden, many more options are available. The vines can be trained over an arbor to shade a patio, tied to a trellis to soften a wall, or allowed to sprawl over a fence or pergola. With any of these methods, the fruit will hang from the vine in tantalizing clusters throughout the summer. Kiwi vines can be grown in most areas of the United States where the temperature does not drop below 10 degrees Fahrenheit. The flowers are susceptible to damage from late spring frosts, and the fruit, which requires a growing season of at least 240 frost-free days to become sweet, can be damaged by hard frost in the fall. The vine should be protected from strong winds. Spring gusts can snap off new growth where it emerges from the canes. Kiwis are not recommended for Florida or for the hot desert climate of the Southwest. Most kiwi varieties have chilling requirements ranging from 400 to 800 hours, but low chill varieties, such as Vincent, can be grown in mild areas with fewer than 100 hours of chilling. In areas with very mild winters, the vines may retain their leaves all winter long and fail to flower the following spring. Also, incompletely dominant vines do not respond well to pruning. Some growers have successfully induced dormancy by stripping the foliage of the plants or by withholding water, but these techniques are severe and should only be used as a last resort. Kiwi vines are dioecious, so you need either male or female plants. You need at least one of each for fruit production. Commercial growers plant one male surrounded by 8 females with about 15 to 18 feet between the plants, but a pair of vines usually supplies enough fruit for home gardeners. Do not prune the male vine until early summer after the canes have flowered and the fruit has set on the female vine. It is important to select a male and female plants that have the same chilling requirements so they break dormancy and flower together, and insects are largely responsible for pollination. When you're propagating kiwi vines, propagated under mist from dormant hardwood cuttings or semi-hardwood cuttings taken in July or August. Many nurseries also graft selected varieties onto seedlings, rootstocks in May or June. In mild winter areas, there appear to be no advantage to plant cutting grown plants instead of grafted plants. But in cold climates, Cutting grown plants are superior because if the top of the plant is killed by the frost, it can be resprouted from their roots and still be true to type. Seedling plants have varied chilling requirements and don't bear fruit of dependable quality, so it is best to stick with grafted or cuttings grown plants. Seedlings can also take much longer to bear fruit. When you're selecting a planting site, kiwi fruit grow in full sun, partial shade. They prefer well-drained soil that is rich in organic matter with a pH range between 5.5 and 7. Provide protection in wind areas. Kiwis do not tolerate salty soils. Install a trellis or other support at planting time. If you are planting 2 vines, do not let the male and female intertwine, or pruning will be difficult. Instead, plant them 12 to 15 feet apart. Kiwi vines can be planted bare root or from containers. The vigorous growth and abundant foliage of the kiwi vine call for plenty of soil moisture. Water deeply and frequently in the basin that extends 5 to 6 feet from the trunk. Water-stressed plants drop their leaves, exposing their fruit to sunburn. They also may not flower the following year. Keep the soil moist until harvest, but cut back on the water as fall approaches in order to encourage dormancy. In parts of Southern California where hot, dry winds are common in the fall, mulch the ground under the entire canopy of the vine and keep it moist. This will, it is hoped, increase the humidity enough to prevent leaf drop. Okay, so for fertilizing, kiwi fruit is a vigorous plant and needs about 1 pound of actual nitrogen per year. Young vines are very sensitive to over-fertilization and need only 1/8 to 1/4 that amount. Spread the fertilizer evenly under the entire canopy. Late fertilization may delay dormancy, so don't fertilize after midsummer. Chelated micronutrients may also be needed in some areas. So here's like a cordon that comes up and it supports the fruiting wood. So then you want to cut about here, about 4 buds off, and that would be about where the last fruit set. And you want to leave a renewal shoot. Okay, so here we are looking at kiwi today, and here's the cordon, the trunk, and it comes up and it splits, and it's a lot like grapes. You have the supporting wood, you know, and then the cordons, and then you have the canes. So coming off the cordons are the canes here, and then up here we have the fruiting wood. So you want to cut off about up to 4 buds, and then but you want to leave a renewal shoot, and there you cut it back to about 2 buds. Here we're looking at a kiwi there. There's the fruit. When it's ripe, it turns brown from green, and it fruits in about October, November. And this is after I pruned it. They said they wanted it about 10 feet, which is a good height. That's about the right level to keep it at, about 10 feet there. So the vines can get pretty heavy, so you want to attach them to some heavy supports. Here they use some poles that they drove in, and they're also trained up on the wire. It originates from China here, and it was brought over here in the United States about 1970, and it has an egg-shaped fruit, and it blooms, or the harvesting season is October and November, and they're available in markets year-round. And they bear within 3 to 4 years after planting from a grafted cutting, and you could propagate them from cuttings and from grafting. The maintenance is pretty high on these. You have to do summer pruning. Some people prune them all through the summer, but yeah, you definitely have to do a good summer pruning, and then you have to do a winter pruning too. Oh, and job well done. And we got a beautiful tasty kiwi here. So good.